Hey guys, I'm Jinx, and I kind of felt like I should make this video after, this. Plus, I wanted to, so yeah, Arcane. Before I go into it, there's gonna be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the show, if you care about not being spoiled, I'd recommend watching the show and afterwards doing me the favor of coming back to the video, please and thank you very much. But also, even if you don't care about spoilers, do me the favor and watch the show first if you haven't, because I truly believe that the best way to experience anything, be it movie, video game, whatever, is blind. So before you hear my opinions thrown into your ears, go make your own picture of the show and then come back and you can hear me say the opinions that you will most likely agree with. Okay, that being said, first things first, the visuals. The visuals and animation are they they're ridiculous. They are on such a high level of quality that I don't think I've seen that style even before ever. You know, that specific style of animation, I don't think I've seen any show or anything repeat that or do that before rather. And it looks gorgeous and they managed to make it so beautiful from character design even to the way they move to their expressions, which is incredibly good. The expressions of the characters in this show are ridiculous. You can pretty much always read a character's emotions based on their facial expression. It is so well done. Also, the way that in one scene in particular, the way that the background of that shot mixes in with the foreground and interacts with it, it really seems like they spared absolutely no expense making the show look as good as they possibly could. And it never, from episode 1 to episode 9, it never ever drops in quality. And the same can be said for music. The show's music is beautiful. It's beautiful and it's amazing. When you start watching the show on the first episode, you get a couple minutes in, you see the intro and already the animation and all that. That level of quality is kept all throughout. The level of quality that you witness in the beginning of the show, when it comes to visuals and when it comes to music, that is kept throughout every scene of every episode of season 1. The music, even in the intro, it gives you a taste of what it's like. The intro music is ridiculous. And when I first saw it, I was taken aback. You know, I was shocked, like, holy shit. And you might think, okay, but they put this amazing music in the intro, I assume this is the best piece in the entire show, and no piece of music throughout the show is going to be as good as that. That's wrong. Every single time music shows up, it is on the same level, if not better, than the song that shows up in the intro. And it complements the amazing visuals beautifully. This show has a level of quality when it comes to appearance that is mind boggling almost. That they managed to do it so well and keep it all throughout. When it comes to visuals, even in action scenes and fight scenes, they keep that level of animation and they sometimes up it by making it more stylized. Examples of this are Jinx and Echo, and especially their fight on the bridge. It's ridiculous. It's such an intricate play of beautiful and amazing music and stunning visuals, and they interact together so well and create this amazing experience to watch and listen to. Also, for example, every time Vi is in an action scene, every time she fights somebody, she just unleashes an unholy barrage of fists onto whoever she's fighting, and it never ever looks worse. The quality never drops in the show. And that translates over into the actual story as well. The actual meat and bones of the show, the characters and the writing. Even though I'm not an amazing judge when it comes to writing, while watching the show, I never ever noticed any plot holes. There was never a time when I thought, okay, this character's behaving strangely, they wouldn't say that, or anything like that. It worked all throughout. The voice acting of the show as well. It's if I had to describe it the way I've been describing everything else in one word, though, I'd say quality. Because it works and it's done amazingly. especially when it comes to Jinx and with her craziness and insanity. I'll explore Jinx's insanity a little further soon, but just to say that going in, if you know Jinx the character is insane or she's crazy, you might be worried about the voice acting because they might make it overly cartoonish, you know, to the point where she just sounds ridiculous, but that's not the case. It's never exaggerated to a point where it sounds weird. It always makes sense. She sounds like an actual genuine person, but just, Jinx, so she's crazy. But it's never overdone. They managed to create a good villain as well. He's not just one dimensional and is evil for the sake of being evil, no. Silco in the show has genuine motivations, and yes, he does some evil shit. He most certainly is a bad guy. In the show, he has a goal. He's not evil for the sake of being evil, but rather he'd do anything to achieve his goal of making the Undercity independent. But also, he floods the streets with shimmer, I assume, in an effort to control everything, so yeah, not the best guy. Still, though, he has actual motivations that you can get behind and maybe even agree with, even if you don't agree with the methods. The show isn't made for kids, which going in, you might think that. You might think it's a lot of the violence is going to be toned down for the sake of being more kid friendly. That's not the case. It's not an 18 plus show, but there is cursing, there's blood. It is brutal and characters die. Every character who isn't on the show can die, and that's shown by a lot of characters that actually do. The only characters, and this is something that you might notice relatively quickly in the show, the only characters that are immune to death in the show are ones that actually show up in the game. So, Jinx, Vi, Caitlyn, and Jason Victor. And maybe I'm forgetting other people, I don't know. But they are immune to death. They have plot armor. You notice that relatively quickly, but it's not something that bothers me. It's okay because, as far as I know, right now, it's not confirmed whether the show is canon or not. So, if Riot is trying to establish actual canonical backstory for these characters, it would make sense that they don't die because they need to be alive to show up in the game. If they are trying to establish actual lore for the game with this show. So the fact that characters in the game can't die in the show doesn't really bother me. At least they don't in the first season. We'll see what happens in the second. But every other character is vulnerable, and they can die, and you should be worried about them if they are in a tense scene. Now, to get to Jinx's insanity. Going into the show, I didn't know anything about League of Legends or any lore that might be existent. The only things I knew were that Vi can punch and Jinx is crazy. Those were the only things I knew. And obviously, in the show, Vi goes around kicking ass the entire time. So that makes sense. But I also knew Jinx would be insane. So when you start watching the show, Act 1, the characters are young. They're younger. The Act 1 serves to set up a lot of the story and a lot of the characters. It's a prologue of sorts. So when it comes to Jinx's insanity, it's very easy to assume that they're gonna fuck it up. Because when you see Powder, when you see Jinx as a little kid, she's mostly sane, you know? For most of Act 1, she behaves like a normal little kid. So, knowing that there is going to be grown up versions of the characters in the show at some point, it might be very easy to assume that, okay, as a kid, she behaves normally, but when she's grown up, she's supposed to be insane. They're probably just going to make her insane for the sake of being insane and because the character is supposed to be. And that way, they might fuck it up, but they don't. I think they handle Jinx's insanity really well for a couple of reasons. They set it up, they set up her behavior and insanity. They give us enough reasons to why she would actually be insane, to why she would turn crazy from what was a relatively somewhat normal little kid, and they give us enough time. They give her insanity enough time to develop. In Act 1, it's shown that she has a fondness for explosions. For the most of Act 1, she behaves normally, but at the end of it, when she throws the bomb and tries to save everybody, when it explodes, you can see her joy in seeing the explosion, and afterwards, even she's happy because she thinks she helped her friends, but at the same time, excited because of what she just did, because of the explosion that she created and the destruction she created. Additionally, immediately after that, she finds out that she just killed two of her friends, her father figure, and her big sister left her because of it. She loses everything she has and is abandoned immediately afterwards, and then taken in by Silco. And she is, from the moment the explosion happens till the end of season one, and obviously beyond, she is haunted by that day and by the losses of that day. She carries that with her wherever she goes, and at no point in season one is she able to fully let go of that. Having all of that on her mind is enough reason for a person to go insane, especially if you also consider that there's a time jump between Act 1 and 2. In Act 1, especially at the end of it, they give us all the reasons and everything we need to know as to why she would go from being a relatively normal little kid into the crazy maniac Jinx. They give us all the reasons, and then Act 1 ends, and when Act 2 begins, there is a time gap in between of years. They give her multiple years to become insane off screen. It makes sense. And even the way they handle her insanity in Acts 2 and 3, it's brilliant. It's never overdone to a point where it's comical, but instead it makes sense. She has a couple screws loose by default. No matter what emotions she's going through, she's a little weird, but there are obviously human moments and normal moments. She is still a person, and in this world of people that are good and bad and anything in between, insane and sane, she fits in and it works. If you haven't seen the show, I recommend you go watch it because it is amazing. In the first episode, it creates a standard of quality from visuals to music to story and characters, and it keeps that standard. It keeps that level of quality all throughout, and I'm assuming that they will do an amazing job in season 2 as well. Uh oh, the misery. Everybody wants to be my enemy. Hi. I I thought you left. What are you doing? Okay, I'll just yeah, I'll go. I'll just go. I'll just yeah, bye. Bye bye. Auf Wiedersehen.